So I've had a lot of people reach out to me and ask me what are my thoughts on the rally that took place in Nashville. A far right group, took to the streets to protest and to let their voices be heard. And I know what a lot of people out there is going to say. They're going to say, well, Brando, they have a First Amendment right to do so. And I would say, you're absolutely right. They do. But I want to explain to you first the difference between people like them and people like us. People like them put on masks and they hide behind it. They put on sunglasses and ball caps and pull them down as far as they can. And they hide their true identity. And then they march through the streets and let their voices be heard. People like us sits down, we create a platform, and we sit here every day, we show our faces. We're not hard people to find, especially people like us that live in small towns. When we walk down the street, everyone knows who we are. 95% of them disagrees with us, but we keep standing up for what we believe in, and we do so openly and publicly. When these people do it openly and publicly, they hide behind a mask like this right here. Ain't it funny how the very people who said that wearing a mask during a global pandemic was government tyranny and I'm not going to be told what to do, but yet they put on a mask, they put on shades, they put on a hat, and they hide when they march down the street and protest. The hypocrisy is completely off the charts with these people. And they will sit and say that they're the patriots in the story. But if you look up the word patriot in the Webster's dictionary, it says a patriot is one who loves and supports his or her country. And I would argue all day long that they do not love or support this country and what it's truly about, because this country is a melting pot of diversity. This country is a place where everyone is free to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, not just people who thinks like them. They're sitting there in their little echo chamber, their echo chamber of bigotry and hatred and prejudice, and that's the stuff they push. And at the time that I sat down to make this video, I have yet to see or hear that Governor Lee has called this out. I've yet to see or hear that Marsha Blackburn has called this out. If they have, all I can say is they hadn't when I sat down to make this video. I hope they do. I hope they stand up to this. But I hope they also realize that it's their policies and their actions that empowers these people and makes them feel like that it's okay to take to the streets. And I think Justin Jones knocked it out of the park. He always does. You can always count on him to just shoot straight. Here it is.
I was called out of order because I compared them to that same week we had neo-Nazis in red regalia with swastikas in the streets chanting outside the state capitol, deport all Mexicans and save the white man. And I told my colleagues, your rhetoric is exactly the same as these white supremacists. So when you say that this makes you uncomfortable, realize that you have rolled out a welcome mat for them to come to our state, and that you have done a call and response. And now you want to act shocked that your cousins have come to the Capitol.
He's absolutely right here, folks. It is the policies that people see. He's absolutely right here, folks. Governor Bill Lee, Marsha Blackburn, Tim Burchett, they shouldn't be shocked that these kind of people are taken to the streets, because they have empowered these kind of people. They have made them bold enough to go ahead and come out and talk. That's what they've done with their policies. If you weren't from Tennessee and you were sitting back on the fence watching and you saw two young black men being talked down to and being expelled for standing up to gun violence, and if you saw them being called boy to their faces, that would be a major dog whistle to you that, hey, I'm welcome in Tennessee. And I will go back and blame it on this person every single chance I get. I will always go back and say that it is Donald Trump that ushered in this type of bullshit. I'll say it till the day I die, because it's the truth. Donald Trump is who empowered these kind of people when he said there are good people on both sides. And I don't care if he said, of course I condemn it, but there's good people on both sides. It's one thing to say, of course I condemn it, and then go on to immediately talk about there's good people on both sides and talk about how bad that Black Lives Matter and Antifa is. Because when you do that, once again, you're sending a dog whistle to those people who are going to sit back and say, well, yeah, he did have to say something about us because the media was hounding him. So he had to say something about us. But you heard what he said about Black Lives Matter. You saw how he truly felt. And that's what they think when they look to Tennessee and they see the fascism that's on full display here. So I would argue all day long that we weren't seeing this kind of rhetoric before Trump. And we're seeing it now because politicians like Bill Lee, Tim Burchett, Marsha Blackburn, all the MAGA politicians here in Tennessee, they saw Donald Trump's grift. They saw it working and they decided to cash in on it. They decided to stand up alongside this bullshit. And I guarantee you, if you press them hard enough, yeah, you could probably get them to condemn it and immediately go right back into a speech about Black Lives Matter and how bad that was. That's where they would go with it. They would go back to the protest of 2020 and try to say that somehow that makes this okay. And I've always said when people tries to compare those type of things to one another, they're not the same. Black people were protesting police brutality. They were protesting the fact that their voices had not been heard. And no one's condoning the violence. No one's saying that the violence was okay. That's not what we're here to say. But we are here to say that they were sick and tired of their voices not being heard and they took to the streets. And they have been demonized every step of the way for doing so. Meanwhile, if MAGA wants to go out and try to overthrow an election that they knew they lost or that they were duped into believing that was rigged against them, if they go out there and drag police officers down the street and beat them upside the head and break down windows and, kick down doors, they think that's okay. They give them a pass for that. When you have people like Donald Trump, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and all these MAGA politicians standing up and calling the people on January 6th patriots and hostages, do you think that's going to make these people that came to Nashville say, well, we better stay out of this? No. They're going to say, oh, boy, we got a spokesperson for us. We got people speaking out for us, so it's okay. Well, again, they took to the streets. They protested. It was absolutely disgusting. There are not good people on both sides here, folks. There's not. Don't let anyone fool you into thinking that they are. That is a radical ideology. It is a dangerous ideology, and it is everything that our grandfathers fought against. My grandfather fought in World War II. I had a great uncle that fought in Korea. They fought to preserve and protect democracy. And for a long time, folks, I wouldn't hang a flag up for the longest time. I didn't, and I feel really bad for not doing so. But the reason I didn't is because groups like this adopted it, and it became such a right-wing thing that I caught myself just not feeling too patriotic and not wanting to fly it. But I am someone who loves and supports my country. I am someone who believes in this country, and I'm someone who believes that everyone, and not just people that looks exactly like me, but everyone should have the same rights that I do, and everyone should be able to live their lives the way that I do. So that's why that flag is hanging behind me now. That's why it's there, because I'm not going to let people like that hijack it. They want to walk down the streets with the American flag, and in the middle they want to have a Confederate flag. Have they not read a history book? The crowd that tells us to do our own research every time we say anything, well, you need to do your research. Well, you clearly didn't do yours. You clearly didn't understand what anything was about because you have an enemy flag flying in amongst the American flag. And you've hijacked the American flag and you've tried to twist it and bend it to your will. And you've made words like patriot a bad word because a lot of people hears that and goes, oh, God, here we go. When someone says, here's a patriotic song, people automatically goes, oh, no, I don't want to hear this. But I would say the true patriotic songs are the patriotic songs that called out police brutality, are the ones that called out cruelty, are the ones that called out the status quo, taking advantage of everyone. Patriotism would be the ones that stood up for the downtrodden and stood up for the poor and tried to lift everybody up. That's what patriotism is to me. Not going out here and hiding behind a mask, hiding behind a big, thick pair of shades, hiding behind a ball cap, and then waving a flag and saying, hey, I want the whole world to look exactly like me. But I ain't got the balls to show my face, but I want the whole world to look exactly like me. I want my ideology to be the only one that rules. And then you want to stand back and talk about democracy and you want to talk about freedom. You don't know anything about democracy or freedom or understand how it works. But you know what's the big shame here, folks? Is that people like that are energized. People like that are ready to vote. And meanwhile, people on our side of the aisle are sitting back worried about a dude's age, worried about the fact that he stuttered. And we're getting all bent out of shape, and there's so much chaos on this side. What we need to do is be rallying around Joe Biden. What we need to be doing is rallying around the idea that we want to save our democracy and we want to defeat Project 2025 regardless. Because those people are fired up. Those people, if they was willing to take to the streets like that, you damn sure better believe they're going to be willing to vote. And they're the type of people that will create as much chaos as they can. That's the whole purpose of their mission, is to create as much chaos as they can so that they'll get us distracted and get us to take our eye off the ball. We lose when we stay home. We lose when we don't come together. We have them outnumbered, folks. There's more of us than there are them. So before you want to start talking about Joe Biden's age or his stutter or where he stands on certain issues, or should the Democratic establishment give me a different candidate, before you start entertaining those thoughts, you got to understand those people are fired up and ready to vote. And if those people gets a president in power who will play to them, none of us are going to have the right to do anything or say anything. So I condemn what we saw in Nashville. I would love to hear our governor do the same. And I would love to hear him do it without passing the blame or pointing the finger at anyone else. Just straight up call it out and condemn it. If you don't, in my mind, you start the both sides bullshit. There's not two sides to this. If you start that, you're guilty by association, and I'm not ashamed to say it.